Hello and welcome back to my knitting podcast. My name is Sophie, but I'm better known as the Knit Purl Girl over on Instagram, Ravelry and here on YouTube. If you are new to my podcasts, welcome, thank you for being here. I am a full-time knitwear designer and I live and work in the south of England. I am recording this on the day that I'm planning to upload it because I filmed this on Tuesday and for some reason my microphone didn't connect to my camera, so there was no audio at all, which was mildly frustrating, but I'm hoping it's going to be a better recording because I actually missed quite a lot that I wanted to say the last time I tried to film this. So here's hoping it's going to be a good recording. I've got lots of nice things to talk to you about today. I've got a few finished objects and I have so many works in progress. Oh my goodness, I have been on an absolute mad one with cast-ons in the month of October. Just had a lot of ideas and I think where I filmed my autumn winter knitting plans video a few weeks ago, kind of like in the middle of September, I think it just kind of brought all of those ideas to the forefront of my mind and I was like, I've got to get started. So that's what I've done. So like my work in progress drawer is absolutely full of different projects. Oh, before I get into talking about knitting stuff directly, I should say that I'm going to be teaching a workshop at Unravel Festival in February, which is really exciting. It's going to be on maths for knitters and I'm going to be talking you through it's kind of like a grading 101 and going from like gauge swatching to like actually understanding what knitting tension, knitting gauge means, to how would you apply that to different construction styles. It's going to be really fun, I hope, and I love Unravel Festival, so if you would be interested in that, I will pop a link to the Unravel website down below. I am going to start, as always, by talking about what I'm wearing, which is the Lucy Cardigan. This is now available. It is also available as a sweater and there is a separate PDF as part of the download on how to modify it to be a vest. You can either have it as like a cardigan vest or as a sweater vest kind of thing. I started working on this design in January and my first sample looks like this. This one is made with Gepard Pura Lana in the shade 492 Plum. And it is a really perfect plum colour yarn. It's beautiful. This one is 50% alpaca, 50% wool. I've worn this a lot this year. I know I say that about everything, but like I will have an outfit change in the middle of the day or like before and after like a yoga class or something because I'm a diva. And yeah, I really like the yarn. It's ever so soft. It has good stitch definition for how drapey it is. And it's worn surprisingly well. It has pilled a bit because it's a soft yarn and soft yarns will pill. There is no getting around it, they just will. But I did a little bit of garment maintenance on this the other day for some photography that I was doing. But actually, yeah, it's worn surprisingly well. It's worked on a 4mm needle US 6 and the tension is 20 stitches by 30 rows in Andalusian stitch, which is one of my favourite stitch patterns ever. It's a really simple 4-row or 4-round repeat. It's 3 knit or yeah, your 3 rounds of stockinette, 1 round and rib basically. Really easy stitch, very simple. But in the Lucy Cardigan / sweater, it is framed by little bits of stockinette stitch. The dark sample is not the one to show you this, I'll show you on the one that I'm wearing. So the drop shoulder construction shaped with leaning increases on the right and the wrong side of the row, of the work rather, and you have these stockinette accents that run along the seams, the pick-up edges really, along the front and the back, and then they join at the underarm. So you have this stockinette panel at the underarms, everything is framed by purl stitches as well, and then just simple rib. I've worn this, yeah, I love this design, it's something that I'm really proud of, and Lucian stitch was the first stitch that I ever kind of dabbled in designing with, so it's quite nice to come back to it with the kind of 5.5 years experience that I've gained since I first started writing knitting patterns, so that's quite fun. This is my second finished object of the month and it is a vest version of the pattern. I will have b-roll of me wearing this that I filmed on Tuesday because it doesn't matter if there's audio or not. One less thing to edit out, right? But yeah, this is what it looks like as a vest. This is not a very good way to show it. I just did a little sleeve cap Basically, I picked up the stitches on the smaller needle size for 3mm US 2.5 and just worked a few rounds in rib. I did do some German short rows. These are completely optional as far as I'm concerned. I don't think it would make that much of a difference on how the garment fits. I just think you get a slightly cleaner line if you do some short row shaping. So yeah, I think it's only 6 short rows in total. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so it's really, really simple. But it looks quite smart, and I think that's going to be really nice as a little layer under a coat or something if I don't know, whatever. I'll find a way to wear it. And then this is what it looks like as a sweater. I showed you this a few months back. To be totally honest, I haven't worn this an awful lot. I think in my head, the Lucy is a cardigan. So I don't have mental space for it as a sweater, but it's such an easy modification that I did want to have it in the pattern. So it's a separate PDF, so you get 3 PDFs in this download. All the information on like the discount and stuff will be in the description box as always. But yeah, that is what it looks like as a sweater. They all have a little baby split hem, but this is optional and there are notes on what to do if you don't want that in the pattern. Yeah, I'd say assessing the difficulty. I find assessing difficulty of patterns really, really difficult because, ironically, because one person's easy is another person's next to impossible. There isn't anything that's particularly technically demanding in this design. Like it's all just like a knitted cast off, for instance. You do a couple of rounds in garter stitch or rows in garter stitch at the end of the rib sections, and then you just cast off knitwise, and I think you get a really nice, almost like a mock I-cord effect. I really like how it looks. Obviously you could, if you just wanted to do a tubular cast off, you can just do that, just to make the garter rows, but I think it looks smart and I really like it on the button band as well. But yeah, the button band is a little bit tricky if you've never done one before, just because you have to, because the length varies for each size, and obviously you can adjust the length of the body quite easily to suit your own preferences. I don't like to be super prescriptive about where to put the buttons holes. I kind of tell you, map out the top one, map out the bottom one, and then space them out as evenly as possible, moving the button hole, that's hard to say, moving the bottom buttonhole as needed to have the buttons be evenly spaced. So you have to do a bit of counting, basically, but it's not difficult. It's just, it requires a little bit of input from you as the knitter. I think the only other thing that might be really challenging for brand new knitters is getting your head around working in a stitch pattern. So for example, when you're doing the back shaping, the increases are worked over a 2-row repeat, but obviously the Anne Lucy stitch pattern is worked over a 4-row repeat. And just to save text copy that doesn't really need to be there, I wrote the increases over a 2-row repeat saying working Anne Lucy stitch. And something that I've noticed with this stitch pattern is people tend to fixate on the textured row, so row 3 and 4 if you're working flat, where you're doing 1 row knit, 1 purl, 1, then purl or stitches. I hope this is making sense. But yeah, obviously when you're working in a stitch pattern, you're working over that 4-row repeat, but at the same time doing the increases over a 2-row repeat. And I think there was a little bit of confusion there. But I think if you're an experienced knitter, you know that already. I hope this makes sense. Forgive me if not, and feel free to ask questions and I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible in the comments to clarify what I'm wittering on about. Yeah. For this sample that I'm wearing, I used Sandnes Garn Peer Gynt Tweed in the shade Light Grey Tweed. I can't remember what the numbers are, but I will have all of the shade names and yarn that I talk about in the description box. And it's a really lovely yarn. I've spoken about this quite a lot, so I'm not going to bang on too much about it, but it's a really pretty, gently mild light grey with a tiny bit of beige running through it, and then ochre and burgundy tweed flecks, which I really love. I would definitely use this colourway again. I really like it. I also used Peer Gynt Tweed for the vest sample. This is from the PetiteKnit shade card though, and it is the shade Almond Tweed. And it's like a slightly cool toned beige. It's not particularly mild, it's kind of is just the one shade of beige, but it has some kind of black, tan, white tweed flecks in it, and it's very pretty. Yeah, I really like this colour. I think it's very nice and neutral. And then I used Drops Lima, which is 65% wool, 35% alpaca, I think, in the shade Wheat Mix. I think that's what it's called, for the sweater version. And again, it's a nice It's not my favourite shade of beige. It's a little bit too yellow for me, which I think is also the reason I haven't found myself reaching for this too often. But it comes off quite pinkish on camera, I've noticed. It has a kind of like pinkish undertone, which is quite pretty. Yeah, it's a nice yarn. I enjoyed knitting with it. I'll definitely use it again next year. Nice budget friendly option. I think it worked out to be like, I think this cost less than £30 to knit, which is really good at the moment, particularly for a natural fibre garment. So yeah, lovely stuff. My next finished object is one that I spoke about in my plans video, so I'm very pleased to have gotten this done. It is the Semper Sweater 2.0. So if you watched my previous attempt at podcasting back in kind of 2021 to 22, you will know this pattern probably, or maybe remember it, but it is my take on a very plain classic raglan sweater made with a fingering weight and a lace weight yarn. There's hundreds of patterns like this probably, but it's my iteration thereof, and I released this in, I think, September 2022, and I've been wanting to update the pattern for quite some time. I think at some point towards the start of last year or the year before, I did start working on an update, and for various reasons I just didn't finish it, and I'm glad that I didn't, because I looked back at the grading that I'd set up for that would have been an update, and I didn't like it. It was still, the things that I want to change about the pattern now weren't addressed in those changes that I'd made then, so it's all worked out, I think. But this is what it looks like. It's not particularly exciting. It's an off-white plain raglan sweater, but it's going to be very useful and a nice layer through the winter. I've used the same yarn that I used for my original samples, which is Knitting for Olive Merino and Soft Silk Mohair. I am going to do a review of this yarn combination at some point, but not yet. I haven't got plans to film it just yet. I kind of want to wear test stuff a bit more, just because it's been a long time since I've used this yarn combination, and I just want to check that I still like it as much as I used to. I used the merino in the shade Marzipan, which is a really nice greyish, pale off-white shade. Not particularly remarkable, but it is a nice colour. And for the mohair, I used the shade Soft Pink, which is a very pretty soft pink, quite desaturated, a little bit peachy in its undertone. Very pretty, and the fabric is really nice. It's a very kind of soft, like ballet white. I would say that's a interesting description. Yeah, it's lovely. There's not much to report. I think I will talk about this yarn combination more extensively another time, because I am also conscious that I need to upload this today, so I can't witter on for too long. It's going to take forever to upload. But yeah, the changes I've made from the original sample, I have widened the neckline so it isn't quite as close a crew neck as it used to be, and I've made it a bit longer / just changed the proportions. So yeah, the main bit of feedback that I've seen on the Semper Sweater over the years has been that it is just very cropped as written, which is completely fair enough. It's a trap that I probably do still fall into. I am very short in the waist, and I will talk about this more shortly. I think if I knit things too long, they don't fit me properly, and I do try to counteract that in my pattern writing. I'm very conscious of making sure to add like 5 to 10 centimetres onto pattern lengths when I calculate yardage and that kind of thing, compared to how I knit things for myself. But even so, sometimes I think people's proportions are different and people's preferences are different, and I can't cater to everybody. But yeah, I hope this is making sense. But yeah, I have tried to address that and just balance out the Semper lengths a little bit more. So on me, this kind of sits at my kind of just below my hip bone. Yeah, the original sample looks like this. It's going to look identical pretty much on camera. I filmed a reel the other day for Instagram showing the difference, and I was like, as you can see, the fit is quite different. And then I've put in the kind of like caption being like, it's not that different. Get over yourself, girl. But the neckline is significantly wider. I think I can't remember exactly what the starting stitch counts are, but I think it is probably 2 inches wider, 5 centimetres or so. And then from the armpit down, this sample is quite a bit longer, again, maybe like 7 centimetres, maybe like almost 3 inches. and that's going to be an edit across the board. I need to send this to my tech editor, which is one of my jobs for today, and then I will have a test knit for this, because the changes are significant enough that it is basically a different pattern. Sometimes when I update patterns, I don't feel that they need a full test knit, because it's like I'm tweaking things, I'm changing phrasing, or like changing stitch counts very, very slightly, but not enough to kind of affect the construction and fit of a garment massively. It's still going to look more or less the same. Whereas this was a total rewrite. I still had my target stitch counts for the upper arm and the chest, but that's the only thing that is staying the same. One thing that did make me laugh with this project whilst I was knitting it, so the tension for this is 21 stitches, 28 rows or rounds, and when I made my first samples, the other one I made is this kind of nice minty green colour, I had to use a 4.5mm needle to get that tension. I made this and I started making this because I was like on the cusp of having a breakdown. Not to be too dramatic, but I was like not in a very good place. It was I think between like the second and third year of my PhD, which I went on to quit because I was just really miserable. And I was just not doing very well. I was like, I can't see an end in sight. I don't want to work in academia. I don't really want to finish. It's like the work, just not good. And I had to go down a needle size, which I think speaks to the difference in my mental state. Like I must have been knitting so tightly and kind of, yeah. So I made this on a 4mm US 6 as opposed to a 4.5 US 7. It made me laugh. For this, if you're interested, I used, I think, Putty, which is no longer available from Knitting for Olive in the mohair shade. I think it's now limestone. I think they renamed the shade. But I still used Marzipan. So it goes to show kind of, oh God, these look pretty much identical in my viewfinder. In real life, these look surprisingly different. This is a much more cool toned, neutral off-white, and this is much peachier. My viewfinder can lie to me though sometimes, and sometimes I look at stuff in the viewfinder and it looks really similar, and I go back and edit the footage and you can see the difference. So hopefully that's the case. And for the original sample that I made, I used, the mohair I used for this is Dusty Aqua, and the shade of merino is Dusty Artichoke. I had a proper blank there, so I had to look it up. But it does make a very pretty shade of kind of bluey light green, quite multi-dimensional, very pretty. I really like it. Yeah, so that's exciting. I'm very pleased to have that off my needles because it's kind of been in the back of my head for a long time. It's something I wanted to do. It was just the timing, like I just didn't have time to do it last year with getting married and everything. It was too much. And then this year, to be honest, it's kind of the first time I've had time to think about doing it this year because the summer was so busy. So yeah, if you would be interested in the test knit, I would recommend follow me on Instagram if you have it, or signing up to my newsletter. If you go to my website, there's a link. I don't send out a lot of newsletters. I just do it for pattern launches and test knit calls pretty much. So yeah, that's the best way to find out about test knits. I think the next set of patterns I would like to update are the Semper slipovers, because again, they are just due an update. They need an extra size. And for similar reasons to the Semper Sweater, I just feel like I've learnt a lot since writing those patterns, and they're due an update. No, yeah, I don't know, again, I don't really have a timeline in mind for that just yet. I will probably get through my current batch of works in progress, and then that will be like my next cast on, maybe. It would be quite nice if I could have that ready for March, so it's like 2 years, I think that's right, 2 or 3 years. Maybe it's 3 years. Yeah, then it would be 3 years since I launched those patterns, and I think that sounds about right. Oh my goodness, how is that 3 years? That's so depressing. Oh. Anyway, enough of that. Let's talk works in progress. Like I said at the top, I have cast on so many things. I think I've got 7 works in progress or something like that at the moment. I'm going to start with the one that I'm actively working on right now. And it is this. I showed a little peek of this in the knitting plans video because I had started it by the time I went to edit that video. But this is what it looks like now. It is an oversized raglan sweater with this really fun button detail on the raglan. So these are fully functional buttons. I haven't just sewn them on for a laugh. That'd be kind of fun. No, it wouldn't. So yeah, that is what it looks like. So you work the yoke flat and then you join in the round as you kind of work the final round of the yoke. Quite a satisfying method because you kind of get through all of the mathsy bits where you're having to count stitches a bit more actively, and then you can join in the round and just like the body flies by. Very fun. I'm about halfway through the first sleeve and I've done one half of the hem, so the back hem is still on hold at the moment. What to say about this? So I am using Camper's yarn, which I bought in Stockholm last November whilst we were on our mini moon. I think it is the 2-ply yarn. I think it has about 300 meters per 100 grams. So that's like 330 yards. And the reason I'm being very non-specific about that is because this is what the label looks like. That is the only information I have. So I'm not quite sure either. I know that it's Swedish wool and it is lovely. If I'm ever back in Stockholm, which I hope to be, I could really go for a trip right now. I would definitely get some more. It's really, really nice yarn to work with. It is lofty, it is quite soft, but it's still woolly. It's really, really nice. I really recommend it. And the stitch definition is really nice too. I did initially want to use this for a cabled project because I thought it'd be so nice in cables, and I do think that it would be. But I also just really wanted a big navy blue jumper, so that's what I've knit. I am a little bit concerned at the moment about the length. I will show you the B-roll that I filmed on Tuesday before I had finished the body. And I will then show you how it looks now. And on me at the moment, I feel like it's drowning me. I think positive ease with raglans can be quite tricky because they can quickly just look like they're too big rather than oversized, there is a difference. And generally, I think with my frame, my build, I can wear clothes with quite a lot of positive ease. So like the Lucy Cardigan, I think on me at the moment has about 17.5 centimeters of positive ease. So like 7 inches. No, that's not right. 9 inches, I think. So that's quite a lot of ease. And I don't think it looks like I'm wearing my parents' clothes. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's partly about managing the length of the garment so it doesn't just look like it's drowning you. And it's also making sure like the grading is correct around the neckline, so making sure that things fit properly across the back of your neck, that kind of thing. And I think I've done all of that. Like I think it looked really nice before I finished the length of the body, and then afterwards I'm not sure. So my plan is to knit both sleeves and then see how I feel about the length. I'm going to leave the back hem stitches on hold because if I do just need to frog the ribbing that I've done so far, that's easy to do, and I can just then either frog back a bit, like maybe 4 or 5 centimeters, about 2 inches, and see how things look then. Or yeah, I don't know, I'm going to experiment a bit. But I think it is really cool. I think that this is now going to be my February pattern because of other reasons I will talk about shortly. Yeah, I should say, I'm holding the Camper's yarn with Alpaca 1 from Isaya in the shade Midnight, which is a really pretty navy blue with flecks of red. So you kind of get this almost iridescent look to it. Sorry, not red, purple. It's like a nice violet shade. I love Isaya Alpaca 1. I'm going to talk about it again in this podcast a bit, but really nice second strand if you don't want fluff, but you just want something to kind of add a bit of volume and softness to your fabric. Yeah, so that's the Audrey sweater. Let me know what you think about length. I'm kind of keen for your input. Am I just being a bit dramatic? Do I just need to kind of finish the sleeves and see how it fits? Or yeah, let me know what you think. Oh, I should say I'm using a 4.5 US 7 needle for the Audrey sweater. I can't remember the gauge. I want to say it's like 19 stitches maybe, and I can't remember the row gauge off the top of my head, to be totally honest. I will try and remember to put it in the description box below, but at the moment it's a heavy DK kind of fabric. I think you definitely could work that yarn on a 4mm US 6, and I did swatch it, but I didn't like how it felt. It felt quite tight, and it kind of felt like a bit more of a struggle to knit. So yeah, I went with the US 7, and I really like the fabric it's making. I think it is a bit more airy and open in stockinette stitch, then would maybe be ideal, but it's fine. I think it looks really nice. I'm not too bothered. Okay, the second work in progress I'm going to show you is another new cast on. I cast this on last week, I think, and it is a second fin sweater sample. So what I've got so far, I've done the back yoke and I've just joined the left and right shoulder together to form the front panel. This is what the original fin sweater sample looks like. The eagle-eyed amongst you might notice there is a difference in the texture a little bit. So this is worked on a 4mm US 6 needle. For the first sample I used John Arbon Textiles Harvest Hues 4-ply in the shade Elder and Isia Alpaca 1 in the shade 36, and the colour is fabulous. I definitely recommend this as a yarn pairing, just because the colour is so pretty. It's a true kind of wine red, really autumnal, wintry, beautiful goodness. I love this colour. So in this sample, the cables are worked over a 10 stitch, 8 round or row repeat. It's 2 sets of 4 stitch cables, and you're cabling the first column of knit stitches on round or row 3 and the second on round or row 7. So you're alternating when you're working every other cable, if that makes sense. So you can kind of see it creates this really nice undulating, kind of very flowy feeling fabric. When I spoke about this project in previous podcast episodes, I mentioned quite a few times that I was a bit worried about how it was fitting and that it was a little bit more snug than I'd initially thought it was going to be. So I did like a mid-project block because it was really kind of clinging to me, and I don't like clingy clothes because I have body image hang-ups about that and I just don't like it. So I kind of went back and I made some more swatches / looked at some swatches that I had made when I first started playing with this motif in my mind. And of all the swatches I made, my favourite was this one, where there are actually 2 purl stitches between each cable as opposed to 1, which I use for this. So I went back to my charting software and I just added an extra purl stitch between each cable, which has changed the grading a fair bit. So this is going to have quite a lot more positive ease. This is going to have 10 more centimetres of positive ease compared to the original fin sample. So this measures 100 centimetres, 40 inches in circumference at the chest. This is going to be 110 or 44 inches in circumference. I think that's right. Sorry, I can't think in inches. I always say it, but it's not intuitive to me, in the same way that thinking in centimetres isn't if you've grown up thinking in inches. But yeah, I really like the fabric that this is making. I think the cables have more definition, but you still get the nice undulating, ripply effect in the fabric. I am using this yarn from one of my favourite hand dyers, Telling Yarns. This is the Resolute 4-ply in the shade Arax. And I've mentioned this a couple of times before, so I won't bang on too much, but it's a mixture of different British wools. So it's a really nice lofty yarn. It is worsted spun, but you would almost think it was woolen spun because it kind of has that much life to it. And it is very subtly hand dyed with little pops of colour. So it has some purples, some blues and some yellows. I hope, yeah, you can kind of see it there. Really subtle, which is my favourite type of hand dyed yarn. I don't go for like really bold colours, but it's just not my preference. Again, I'm holding it with Isia Alpaca 1 in the shade E2S, which is a nice natural alpaca-y grey. Really lovely yarn combination. Again, no notes on that front. Really enjoying working with it. I always think that Beth, who dyes, who is Telling Yarns, her work looks like it's light coming through stained glass. She's so talented at getting these really beautiful bits of like nuance in colour. I'm such a huge fan of her work, and just a lovely person as well. So yeah, that is what this is looking like. I have had to change some of the shaping details to accommodate the change in stitch pattern. So for the first sample, I had kind of travelling cables around the neckline shaping, so you can see that, hopefully you can see rather. This cable, ooh, if I pull it down, oh, this is not the easiest thing to show. So yeah, you can see the increases are coming off of this cable. That was the first of the shoulder cables. Oh my god, how many more times can I say cable in a sentence? yeah, but I've had to change that detail because I would have had to have increased 12 stitches along the neckline, which is too many. So instead I've just kind of increased in pattern rather than making the cables travel. Hopefully that is clear. Probably not. I apologise if not, but you'll see what I mean when I finish this. Get the collar on and you'll be able to see the difference around the neckline. So I was a bit gutted to have to do that because I did really like that detail, but I would rather have a sweater where I like the fit rather than one where I've got like the precise like mini details that I wanted in. So yeah. So my next work in progress is another one that I talked about in my plans video and I have started working on. I finished the yoke and done a little bit of the body. This is the Cove Raglan. So my Cove sweater, I'll put a picture here, is one of my most worn patterns from my like knitwear collection because it's my go-to comfy sweater in the winter when it's really cold. And I thought it would be fun to reiterate that design as a raglan. Oh, there's a jay on the tree outside my house, that's fun. So this is what it looks like so far. I am really pleased with how this is looking. I used Sandnes Garn Peer Gynt in the shade, I think this is dark brown tweed, but it's a really pretty, quite cool toned brown. It's very cookies and cream in colour, and it has these lovely regular light flecks through it. I'm holding it with Yarn Smith's Kid Silk Mohair. The colour isn't exactly a perfect match. This is much, much, much warmer in tone than the base yarn. And in an ideal world, I would have bought the corresponding colour, which I think is like dark fudge or something, from Sandnes, but I didn't want to spend an extra £50 on mohair when I already had some in stash that would do. So the overall tone of this is a little bit warmer than I would ideally like, but that's fine. I can live with it. I am a 31 nearly year old woman. I can cope. So I have done I've done a lot of raglans this month, but this construction is initially worked flat. So this is worked the same way as my loose sweater and the shell tee. So you work flat up until you cast on stitches to join the neckline. And I think it looks really nice. It has the kind of high neck 2x2 double folded collar, or folded collar. I never know what the correct verbiage is there. And it has the distinctive chunky lines from the Cove sweater. So whereas for the drop shoulder version, those are the equivalent to these stockinette portions on the Lucy, I've made them the raglan and the neckline framing stitches here. So yeah, you get some nice thick lines. I'm going to do the same German short row shaping around the hem to create a curved hem, and then again lots of 2x2 rib, and then the same chunky kind of voluminous sleeves that quickly decrease at the cuff, so you get this really nice satisfying shaping, and I think it's going to look really, really nice. I don't really have a release date in mind for this just yet. It'll be at some point next autumn, but yeah, it looks really nice. I'll try to rapid fire my way through these last few works in progress. I think I maybe, again, similarly, if you watched the knitting plans video, I think I'd started the collar and like done the German short rows or something. But I also finished the yoke of my Dahlia sweater, sample 2. This is what the first sample looks like. Really pretty, very feminine. This is coming out in January. And it's a raglan sweater with a floral lace motif throughout the centre front. Really like it. Beautiful. I used Issachar Tvinny and Silk Mohair, no, Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair for the first sample. I'll have shade names down below. And for this one, I am using Issachar Highland World in the shade Wine and Silk Mohair in the shade 36. This is what those yarns look like. You've got a really pretty, very gently heathered, multi-dimensional, plummy burgundy red and a nice purpley burgundy mohair. Really lovely yarn combination. Very, very, very soft and very fluffy, just super pretty. Love it. I am resisting steam blocking this as I go because I want to have a really good before and after photo of what the lace looks like as you work it, because it's satisfying and it scratches an itch in my brain. So at the moment it's looking quite tiny, but it will relax and grow a bit. These do match gauge in my swatches at least, so yeah, that's fun. I finished the yoke. This is currently in test knitting. Not a lot more to say about it really, so yeah, Dahlia sweater looking good. I think this is going to be, once I've finished the Audrey sweater, and the Orla sweater, that is going to be my priority project because I need it for January. I can't remember if I've made any changes to the Orla sweater since I last spoke to you about it, but I've nearly finished the length of the body. In fact, I think I can probably do the rib now, and I've done the collar. I just did a 1x1 rib collar for this one. This is coming out in November, and it's a very simple colourwork yoke sweater with some raglan shaping at the bottom of the yoke. For this one I've used Sandnes Garn Peer Gynt because it's just my favourite yarn. It's easy to knit with, looks great in colourwork, and I really like these colours. I've got like a nice beige, and then a cocoa colour, another dark brown, a kind of rosy pinky colour, and an olive green. This pattern has 2 iterations of the colourwork. Let me grab the other sample so you can see it. So this is what the first sample looks like. This is made with John Arbon Textiles Harvest Hues worsted weight, and it's just got almost like beading in the colourwork. Really pretty. Some of the test knitters have just done this in like a main colour and one contrast colour, and it looks really effective. Really simple but really nice. And this one has half twisted rib details and a jazzy cuff, which is very fun. I think I'm going to keep the cuffs plain for this sample, second sample, just where the yoke is that much busier. But yeah, really satisfying project. I think I've probably got like another 3 days of knitting on this. I think each sleeve will take a day and the rib will take me an evening maybe. But yeah, looks really nice and smart. It's going to be very easy to wear and useful. So I think that just about wraps things up. Thank you so much as always for watching. I hope that this hasn't been too much of a drag or too manic or whatever. And I hope you have a lovely restful weekend if you're watching this the day it comes out. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. I've got a video coming out aimed at beginner knitters, and it's about 5 things that I wish all beginner knitters could know. And it's more about like mindset stuff than actual kind of physical knitting tips. So I hope that's going to be well received. I feel quite nervous putting it out because I have some opinions in it, and being opinionated on the internet is scary. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that if that would be of interest to you. And if not, I will see you at the end of November. I hope you have a lovely month, and I'll catch up with you then. Bye!